Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. Today, we are unpacking something that literally every single human being on the planet has to deal with at some point: conflict resolution. More specifically, we're zooming in on the mechanics of why healthy couples argue well. Okay, let's dive into this and look at a really fascinating case study that completely breaks down the anatomy of an argument, and more importantly, the repair that follows. So, is it possible to argue your way to a stronger relationship? Honestly, it sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, we usually think of arguing as this purely destructive force. But to answer this question, I want to completely transport you into a scene. Imagine an apartment in Pune, India, on a quiet evening. The atmosphere inside is intensely heavy. It's got that thick, really uncomfortable quiet that just settles in after a bad argument. Two partners, Samir and Aditi, well, they've barely spoken to one another all day long. Which brings us right into section 1, the silent aftermath, breaking the ice after a fight. So we drop right into their unusually silent home. And look, we've all been there at some point, haven't we? That stubborn standoff where neither person wants to be the first to cave, where the silence is just incredibly loud. It's this deeply human situation where your pride is actively going to war with your desire for connection. But then a vital shift happens. Samir walks into the kitchen where Aditi is busy making tea and softly asks, "Can we talk?" This right here is the absolute crucial first step of the entire repair process. He doesn't march in with accusations, he doesn't make demands. He simply and gently initiates contact. Aditi pauses for a second and agrees that they should talk. It perfectly demonstrates how simply dropping the armor and opening the door to communication is where the healing process actually kicks off. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it leads us into section 2, owning your mistakes and the power of mutual accountability. The moment the ice is broken, the blame game is completely abandoned in favor of accountability. Let's look at how both partners immediately step up to take responsibility for their own actions. On one hand, we have Samir. He openly admits he was frustrated, that he raised his voice, and that he just wanted to prove he was right. On the other hand, we have Aditi. Her reaction during the fight was totally different. She kept her feelings completely bottled up inside, and then, because of that hidden pressure, she ended up reacting harshly. This beautifully contrasts how both individuals contributed to the fight in entirely different ways. It proves a massive point. Mutual accountability doesn't require you to have made the exact same mistakes. You just have to own your specific part of the mess. I want to pause here and really highlight Samir's realization: I should have listened to you instead of trying to prove I was right. That's huge. The crucial point is that Samir realizes prioritizing his own ego was the core issue. His absolute need to quote-unquote win the argument and be the one who was right is what actually escalated their conflict. Admitting that out loud, that is incredibly powerful because it completely disarms the tension. And once that ego is pushed out of the way, the dynamic drastically shifts. Here in section 3, we look at playing on the same team, shifting from me versus you to us versus the problem. This is the exact moment where we see Samir and Aditi successfully pivot their entire mindset. They actively stop acting like adversaries fighting across a battlefield and consciously step back into their rightful roles as partners. Just look at this profound response from Aditi. "We built this home together. We should solve problems together too." She is actively using their shared history, literally and metaphorically, the home they've built side by side, as the foundational reason for collaborative problem solving. It is a beautiful, grounding reminder of what's actually at stake, reminding Samir that, hey, we are on the exact same side. Right at this moment of vulnerability, Samir hands her a cup of tea. He smiles and tells her that she always makes the best tea. She laughs, kind of surprised, and asks, "Even after a fight?" And he smiles back and says, "Especially after a fight." It's such a brief, incredibly warm exchange, but it shows how a tiny injection of humor and genuine appreciation can completely diffuse whatever lingering, stubborn tension was left hanging in that kitchen. The fight is truly over. Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds. Rules for the next fight. Proactive planning for future conflict. You see, truly healthy couples don't just apologize, hug it out, and blindly pretend a fight is never going to happen again. Instead, they use the clarity of the aftermath to create actionable strategies for the future. Right there over their tea, they walk through an exact verbal agreement. Step 1, notice what bothers you. Step 2, talk about it before it escalates into a full-blown argument. And step 3, try to understand the other person's point of view before reacting. They are literally writing a healthy rulebook for the relationship in real time. By explicitly agreeing to these steps, they're making sure that small misunderstandings don't mutate into big, day-ruining fights ever again. With all that tension completely faded, they take their tea and move out to the balcony, sitting together and just watching the evening rain fall over Puna. Samir gently holds her hand and establishes a vital, non-negotiable rule for their life together. Captured perfectly right here. I don't want a day to end without us talking. No matter how many disagreements they might face down the road, open communication is officially set as their ultimate baseline.
Aditi squeezes his hand back and enthusiastically agrees. And this brilliantly illustrates Aditi's exact criteria for their relationship, defining what true love actually looks like in everyday practice. She realizes love isn't some fairy tale where people never ever fight. True love is defined by understanding each other, having the humility to apologize when you're wrong, and consciously choosing each other every single day.
As the rain continues outside, peace is fully restored to their home. We can really distill this overarching dynamic into three core pillars. What is stronger than an argument? Well, honest conversation, mutual respect, and forgiveness. These are the absolute, undeniable tools that successfully dismantle the ego and repair our human connection. So, I want to leave you with a final thought to take away from this explainer today. Next time you argue, ask yourself, will you try to be right or will you try to be a team? It's a simple question, but how you answer it changes absolutely everything about the health of your relationship. Challenge yourself to apply Samir and Aditi's conflict framework in your own life. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.